What's up everybody, thanks for tuning in on today's video. I'm Gabe and today we're going to be doing a very high level review of the 2021 Nissan Sentra S. Now before I begin, I want to let you guys know in advance that this is not going to be a very technical review. This is just going to be a very high level overview of some of the features and my experience while driving it and some of my comments on the actual experience as a whole. The Nissan Sentra is not a new car. It's actually been in the US market for well over 15 years now. Starting price is around $19,000. Really depends on, the incentives of the dealership, where your dealership's located, but you can expect to pay roughly anywhere from $18,000 to $20,000 depending on, again, locations and whatnot. Now the Nissan Sentra does have a lot of competitors like the Honda Civic, the Toyota Corolla, the Mazda 3, Volkswagen Jetta, the Hyundai Elantra. So that's about 5 competitors right off the bat. So this video is going to really help you guys distinguish how the Nissan drives as a whole from a non-technical perspective. Let's go ahead and get started with the exterior part of this car, which is the first thing that we'll notice here. It is featured in a white color. This is not actually metallic. Car is quite dirty because it is a rental. So the front of the Nissan Sentra S is pretty acceptable. The design, I mean, we're seeing a lot of like these newer, commuter economical cars that are starting to portray like this very aggressive and sporty type of look. You'll also have like the lights here are definitely a lot more angled. You have like those little insert pieces right here, very like Audi, Mercedes type of look. It's still pretty good in today's standards. I mean, the look is not all that bad. It's not an ugly car, I'll tell you that right now. Let's go ahead towards the side of the car. With the base model, you don't get the 18-inch alloy wheels. You actually get like the 16-inch wheels with like the little hubcap here, so you can go to AutoZone and swap those out if you desire, but nothing overly special about them. If you get the higher trims or options, you can again put some different rims. This Sentra is quite a bit longer than the Versa. I mean, this is a trim level above the Versa, but right below the Altima and Maxima. Just like the front of the car, the profile is quite acceptable. And again, it's not an ugly car, it's just whatever. It's a little bit different from what I'm used to, I'll tell you that. So let's go make our way towards the rear of the car. I do believe with the higher trims, you can get a spoiler from the factory. These tail lights here, how it has like these 2 strips, again, kind of makes it look like it's LEDs, but they're really not. As we make our way towards the bottom here, you will see that is a singled exhaust system, and it does like angle down. It doesn't point out like any other premium model would probably have, especially with the Sentra. Whatever, it doesn't look all that great. The diffuser is kind of like a little nice. I love how it is painted in the same color as the body, so that is pretty cool. But again, it is a pretty acceptable exterior design. So now that we've gone over the exterior, let's go ahead and check out the interior. Let's go ahead and turn the car on so we can get some air. And there's a pretty conservative startup, nothing all that great. We'll go ahead and cover more or less what powers this Nissan Sentra, but let's review the interior part of the car, which it looks a lot better than the previous generations, 100%. And I think a lot of like these newer generations of these commuter economic fuel efficient cars, they all have improved their interior drastically. I mean, there's no question about that. So let's go ahead and start with the steering wheel here, which is actually quite possibly my most favorite part of the interior. Reason why is because it actually comes with a flat bottom steering wheel like you would find in like a Nissan GTR or a high performance vehicle. So the steering wheel is again pretty nice in design. I love how it has like this brushed silver finish here to contrast the black leather. Behind the steering wheel, we'll make our next observation, which is actually going to be the speedometer and tachometer here. You'll notice that they do have the iconic white and red combination. Nothing all that special. You know, they haven't really changed that in quite some time. I personally would have preferred digital, but you know, that's just a preference thing. And of course, you see the little screen there that you can navigate through, adjust any of the settings, and you can check some of the options on the car. Pretty functional, pretty easy to access too. Of course, the main screen over to our right here is where you'll probably engage with most of the infotainment system or any of the options or changes that you want to make towards the car. Pretty easy to use. It is touchscreen, which is pretty cool considering that a car like, let's say, the Alfa Romeo Giulia, especially the one that I reviewed back in about almost 2 years now, did not have touchscreen. So it's pretty cool that this does have touchscreen, and I personally prefer to use that than the actual dial here. Seems to be pretty responsive. I haven't had any sort of issues, you know, like a loading or any sort of like lag or delay, but I think it's pretty standard. I'll be honest with you guys, it doesn't seem like it's overly sophisticated as well. And so right below the screen you will see these air vents here that are pretty cool. Definitely a ripoff of the Mercedes Benz with the silver finish here, and of course a circular design that is clearly a Mercedes look. Just like you have the air vents, right below it you have these dials that are finished in like that you know, that brushed silver look. I have to say that this looks very, very German. BMW, Audi, Mercedes. It does give you a pretty nice and luxurious feel, so I do have to say that I do like that very, very much. Unfortunately, none of that really passes down onto here. This little gear selector here kind of reminds me of like the older, like 2000, I would say 2007 BMW 320s. Again, this does have a lot of characteristics from a lot of German cars. Just want to FYI that you have the start engine and stop engine button here. You know, it kind of takes away from like that primitive way of starting up your car. Unless it's like a sports car, then it's acceptable. And one of the things that this car has that I actually don't like, and I'll be very, very clear in saying that, is that it has like this this dry carbon fiber weave look, right? You'll see it here on the cup holder. You'll also see it over here, right? You'll also see it in the door controls, like the window controls area here. I'll be very honest, I'm not a fan of that. First of all, I don't like dry carbon fiber look. I always like the wet look, just stands out a lot more. I actually would have preferred to have like this a gloss black plastic over here instead. It would kind of give that more of a luxury feel. And we'll notice that this has like a leather stitch armrest. Very, very comfortable as well. I'm actually able to use both of my armrests while I drive, and I'll show you guys in a moment here. So that's actually really cool. Inside of the cubby here, you have a lot of space. You can literally fit like an iPad in here, but it seems pretty standard nowadays for cars to have that much space. Of course, you have your glove compartment over here. You have some storage areas over here on the side and on the passenger side. So in storage in the front is also really good. So now that I'm actually in the interior, I also want to make some comments about the seats. The driver's seats and the passenger seats are the same ones. They are very, very comfortable. These are cloth seats. Unfortunately, you do know that with cloth seats, it does help out, of course, with heat and whatnot. But of course, they get dirty very easily. It doesn't look as luxurious, but they are extremely comfortable, guys. I mean, I absolutely love the Nissan seats. And it's funny because it does have like these holsters here, right? Like you'll find in like a sportier car, like let's say the BMW does a very good job with like performance seats and holsters, right? They are, of course, manual. They don't have any sort of automatic features, right? They're manual, pulled by the lever over here. Of course, to move it front and back, you have like the lever up here. Let's go ahead and check out the back for a second. So from the back here, you do get a really nice view of the entire center console and the entire driver focused area. Again, a very nice and acceptable design. In terms of spacing and seating, now I'm in the center seat here just so you guys can see the legroom here. So I'm about 6'2" or so, nothing crazy or anything like that. I have plenty of space. The driver and the passenger can compromise, and just like the front of the car, front driver and the passenger side, the seats are pretty comfortable as well. All right guys, so now that we've talked a little bit about the exterior and interior, before we go ahead and start driving the car, let's go ahead and get a look of what is powering this 2021 Nissan Sentra. It is, of course, a naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder, and it puts out about 145 crank horsepower, about 146 pound-feet of torque. Nothing all that crazy. Again, you don't really expect much from these economic commuter cars. Now, in terms of miles per gallon that this car gets because of this 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, you could expect anywhere between 25 to 27 in the city and as high as 38 on the highway, so a combine of roughly 33 to 35 miles per gallon, which is pretty acceptable in today's standards. Now, what is delivering this power is probably my least favorite part, or the least exciting part about this car, and that's actually going to be the infamous Nissan Xtronic CVT, or continuous variable transmission. And Nissan has always been known, well, I'd say for like the last 10 years, has been known for having pretty crappy CVT transmissions, even though CVT transmissions are not crappy concept engines. I mean, you'll have them on the Toyota Corolla, for example, but the Toyota Corolla transmission, you don't hear anything wrong with that car, unless of course you abuse the car aggressively. The CVT transmissions on the Nissans just don't have the reliability that the Toyota Corolla will have. But again, it's a pretty new car. I really don't expect any problems to be happening now, but anything past the 35,000 mark could raise a red flag. But I'll go ahead and continue the conversation of the CVT transmission as I'm actually driving it, so you guys will see what I mean. All right guys, we are back inside the Nissan Sentra. It is now time to get on the road, and I'll show you guys how this car drives and my overall thoughts on this car. So initially, it's very smooth. Very smooth. And I somewhat expected that from a brand new car. Let's give this a little whip and dip. Put it on L, which is like the lowest gear possible. Wow. Wow, that was horrible. Wow. At the lower gear, right, CVT transmission was completely unresponsive. Like, I literally had it floored for about half a second, and then is when I got something happen. If you're trying to run away from somebody chasing you, or perhaps merging into traffic at a lower RPM, that may not be a good thing. Let's try another pull here. Wow. Oh yeah. So at lower RPMs, if you're trying to blast off, right, this CVT will just not work for you, like, at all. Wow. Let's try if we put it on the S mode, which is one of the different driving capabilities, right? So let's go ahead and give it a test right now. Okay. We're gapping the Corvette, boys. We're gapping the Corvette. Okay, so I guess with the sport mode on, it enhanced it just a little bit more. It reduced at least the lag for me. S, regular mode, so I guess on drive mode. And then you have the eco mode that's kind of like stored or lodged away here on the left. It's as if Nissan doesn't want you to know about it. So the eco mode is supposed to be the most optimal mode to save gas. And in fact, the CVT transmissions do a really good job at doing so. The CVT transmissions are not only very good with gas, but they're also really inexpensive to make. Nissan claims, in fact, that the CVT transmissions are somewhat more reliable because of that, because they don't have a lot of moving parts like a traditional automatic transmission would, but I don't think that's necessarily all that accurate. For example, the Toyota Corolla, also another user of the CVT transmissions. Again, they're very inexpensive and very good on gas, which is what the point of these cars are, right? Well, the CVT transmissions on Corollas are practically indestructible. In fact, the reason why I'm actually driving this car is because my girlfriend's Nissan Versa is in the shop right now. That car already has had to have its transmission completely redone. Luckily, that was covered under the warranty, but the car had less than 50,000 miles. Now we actually have it in the shop again, which is why I actually have this car, because the transmission is also acting up yet again. Now, I don't usually drive that car very often. When I do, I drive very conservatively because there's really no incentive to be speeding with a car like this. As a word of advice and as a piece of experience, I would look out for the Nissan's CVTs. Like, if you're gonna lease this car, maybe that's the better option. I'm sure the lease deals are a steal. Like, really, they must be really inexpensive. But I definitely wouldn't keep this car long term. But let's go ahead and shift focus from the transmission to the actual driving and the comfort of this. It is extremely comfortable, guys. Like, it handles really, really nicely. The suspension is absorbing all the little imperfections, which there aren't really many here. But it really is making it out for a very, very smooth ride, guys. I do have to admit that right now I am very comfortable. If you're going to be using this as a daily commuter, it's going to treat you very, very nicely. But let's have some fun here. At a higher speed, I am noticing that the CVT is reacting just a tad bit faster than if it was at a lower speed. So I'm gonna be getting off the highway now. I'm gonna be taking a sharp little turn here. Let's see how this car handles with just a little bit of pressure. Let's give it a run for its money. Oh, geez. The body roll was pretty significant. Definitely not a car to be taking a lot of corners with. I'll be very honest. Not that the point of this car was to ever really do that. All right, so now we are in more of a city driving situation. Not that much different from the highway. Still pretty comfortable. One thing that's really cool about the Nissan Sentra is it does have active blind spot monitoring and proximity checks, right? And I actually really like it how when it detects that there is another car close to you, so it doesn't let you merge, right? It'll actually light up inside the cabin rather than outside the cabin. That's something that I actually haven't seen in any car. Maybe I just haven't gotten behind the wheel of all the other cars, but that's pretty cool. This car also has lane assist as well, so not only will it tell you if it's okay to switch, but if you're actually switching and you're, let's say, rolling off to the side here, I'll show you guys right now, the car will vibrate. Well, the steering wheel will vibrate and you'll get a little indicator saying that you are actually swerving into the other lane, which is pretty cool. I mean, again, pretty standard as well. But overall, guys, the Nissan Sentra S is definitely a very practical car. I wouldn't necessarily call it 100% efficient, but it's definitely a car worth consider buying, especially if you're looking for a new car that will get you to point A to point B in the most inexpensive way possible, and of course without compromising comfort and reliability. Now, the reliability aspect of it, you know, that's kind of like a we'll have to wait and see type of thing. Well, guys, that pretty much concludes today's review of the 2021 Nissan Sentra S. I hope you guys found this video somewhat informative and entertaining. If you guys did, go ahead and give me a like on the video, guys. It helps out a lot with the algorithm. If you guys enjoy my content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Greatly appreciated, guys. Guys, don't forget to also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos, my reviews, my vlogs. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.